Hi everyone. First of all, I've got an impression I've been talking about this topic a great many times, but never to an audience that's on the same page, so thanks you for coming. We'll start with a short trailer to a documentary we'll be hopefully launching later this year. So just to quickly give you an idea and said maybe...
I don't think we can imagine how it feels to be an animal at a market.
Takie procesy, które usypiają sumienie.
Najgorszego rodzaju targ niewolników.
Totalny absurd.
W większości osób kojarzy się z produktem, a nie z żywą istotą.
So that's a trailer to a documentary, and this documentary is going to be not only about the phenomenon of markets in general, but also we'll be touching upon the matter of why people do what they do to animals, what are those psychological mechanisms behind what they do, and what can we do to stop them, or if we can do anything to stop them. But general idea behind the market is to group animals there and then sell them to slaughter by driving them in the bigger trucks. But that was the idea from like many years back. People now in Poland, people don't even know that there are those markets for slaughter animals, or they have a wrong idea of those markets. People might think that one farmer comes with 2 hens and the other comes with 1 cow and they exchange, which is entirely not true. Markets have been transformed into hubs, like a small dealer with 10 cows comes to a market and sells those cows to a bigger buyer who transports them like in trucks with 25, 30 on a truck. And markets function is sanctioned on EU regulation 1/2005 concerning animal protection in transport. But of course, reality is very different than we would expect while just reading the regulations. Generally, how market works is that there are many small farms, like in one vicinity, trader picks up some animals, mostly they are cows, and drives them to the market. Then, from this market, they are driven to a slaughterhouse. It might be the same with the bigger farm, but usually the bigger farms sell their animals directly to slaughterhouses, which we argue is like not the better way, but the less evil way, because no one cares about the transport being as short as it could be and as short as it should be according to the regulations. This is an example from real life. Cows were transported from Malbork in northern Poland to the biggest cattle market in Poland, in Bodzentyn, which is in southern Poland, and then transported to a slaughterhouse in eastern Poland, only for the profit, because you can sell cows at the market for a tiny bit better profit than you could expect in direct sell to the slaughterhouse. We're even wondering sometimes if this profit is really measurable, or do they just think they're getting more profit because they get more money in the end? But have they considered all the costs? It's like, we think we've researched it a lot, but we still think this is unmeasurable. We've calculated that this route would be 850 kilometers. If they took direct transport to a slaughterhouse, it would be like half. How do we do what we do? We investigate the markets by going inside covertly. Most, like 99% of cases, we go in there covertly because we want to document spontaneous and regular behavior of the agriculturalists who come to those markets. We don't want to document how can they prepare to our presence and how can they prepare to our inspection or any official inspection that we could summon. This is, of course, a difficult thing to do. When I started doing this, I had this thought that I should intervene, seeing something wrong, but there are certain things that could make this intervention pointless or even impossible. First of all, if we go in a team, we're like five people. Sometimes we go in 2 people. There are 200 drunk traders who are at the first sight of a camera. They might be aggressive. So any intervention would be like pointless, to say the least. Of course, we could call the police, and the police would be like 2 police officers against 200 drunk traders again. We tried that, of course. There were horse markets where police is like present regularly because they're really big events and there are lots of people coming to see those markets. And when we tried to point the police into the place where something's going on, the policeman said, okay, so call us when there's something going on. So we said there's something going on, like here. Okay, we saw that, and they just walk away. We also tried to intervene outside markets, like in other cases where there was something going on, like downer cows being transported into the markets, outside the markets. This has more sense, but interventions at animal markets, when there is something going on, like animals are bitten or kicked, this is pointless, to say the least. Like previous speaker mentioned in her talk, it's always the matter of switching off something in your mind, being able to see this, document this, and not being able to crack down. We had this. We had a situation where we were inside this particular market that's on the photo, the biggest cattle market in Budzentin. We were there with a crew of Polish national TV, and the cameraman of the TV had to get out after 10 minutes because he had to vomit. So there wasn't like blood there. There wasn't. It was not the slaughterhouse. There was just this amount of suffering that this man saw inside made him want to vomit. The general way the markets are sanctioned by law, they are operated by local city councils in most cases. I will tell you later how they care about their duties according to the regulation. They are supervised by veterinary service. Probably in most of your countries there are similar services or some counterparts to those services, like food safety authorities or something like that. And any violations we document or we observe, we try to report to police to prosecute. We have this lucky situation that in Poland we can be active in prosecutions. So we can try to influence the whole prosecution process, and we also, in case of markets, we do it as well, but there were several prosecutions we tried to initiate. In January 2016, we were at a horse market, which also takes place in Budzentin, and a week later we were at a cattle market that takes place there. In both investigations we had footage pointing out there were severe violations. There was a loading of 24 cows on one truck, beaten, kicked, I think they were electrocuted as well, horrific things. And at the other market, the horse market, there was one guy who hit a horse once. He got convicted, 10 months of suspended prison. And two guys who were loading 24 cows did not. The prosecutor and the court said that cows are big enough for them to be used violence against because people have to handle them somehow. Can you be more ridiculous than that? The case that's on the photo, this truck was transporting a downer cow out of this Byzantine market. We stopped this truck using police. It was really well documented. That was the cow that came, that was the example from the map I showed you previously. She came very far away. She died on that truck eventually. We were successful to administer euthanasia for her, with a vet of course, but the guy who was transporting her was never convicted. He lost his license. He doesn't transport animals anymore, but he was not convicted, even though it was quite obvious. We started this campaign in a structured way in 2012. We thought that for a year we would investigate markets, document our findings, and then file a report to relevant authorities. It would be obvious enough so that the markets would be closed. Yeah. We're in 2019 and we're still doing it. It turned out that when we first tried to approach relevant authorities about markets, all we heard was, okay, you might have seen something disturbing, but we're sure that's incidental. We've documented that was last year, I've counted this, 13 hours of footage, and that's, according to the authorities, that was all incidental. Of course, we continued investigating markets. I'll tell you in a minute how we changed our approach, but we've started this campaign together with Animals Angels, whom you might have known, in 2012 because of one market investigation that turned out quite promising, because an investigation at a random market proved that there are severe shortcomings and severe violations, because there was a downer cow at the market. She was transported to a nearby slaughterhouse, not another 800 kilometers, and that was all we could do in that time. There was always an argument in these cases that if we should push for improving the welfare of animals at the markets, or if we should push for the ban of the markets. We of course push for the complete ban of the markets, but we've seen that it's not possible to do it without pushing the welfare as a mediocre solution, because improving the welfare causes more difficulties for the traders, for the market operators, and by improving welfare, if they do it, improve the infrastructure of the markets, they do not improve the behavior of the traders, who are often drunk, who are often violent to animals, who are really sometimes don't know how to handle animals, and they compensate their lack of knowledge with violence, and they think that's going to work. And if the markets improve as an infrastructure, they do not improve in other ways. So this proves, we argue that this proves that markets can't be improved. that the only solution to ending the suffering is ending the markets. When we realized that just showing the violations does not work, we decided to change our attitudes a little bit and get more into the topic, dig more into the regulations, and show some other aspects of the problem. In 2016, together with Animals Angels, we've published a report. I have a few copies of this report with me because I couldn't get more on the plane, so if anyone's interested, I can hand it out. The report covers 60 investigations. There's a lot of findings, a lot of violations documented. It was distributed to the media in Poland, to all the politicians that could have been involved in this. Animals Angels has distributed this also to Brussels, to MPs. In Poland, we got really good media coverage of this report. There were big articles in 2 biggest newspapers. The response from the media was quite good. However, the response from the authorities was like, okay, 60 findings, incidental. We've presented this report in sessions at the Parliament. We got the feedback that yes, everything has to be looked through, things have to be improved, but aren't we looking at an incidental case here? So we have this report. We'll be publishing another report hopefully this year, but Brussels got this report in 2016, and it took them 6 or 7 months to open an envelope, and they got back to us after seven months that, okay, we'll think about it, and that's it. We're 2019. In beginning of this year, we thought that we're a bit of like facing the wall, because we've exploited everything we could have come up with, and not much things worked to change the authorities' attitude. As a coincidence, there's this big horse market that happens every year in central Poland. The person in the photo is an actress and horse trainer, a vegetarian, I think, as well. She approached us that she would like to go to the market with us because she has never been there, and she's heard some bad things about this. She asked us to take her along with us so that she would like to see it with her own eyes. So we said, okay, but we're going to record you. As we did. That's the shot from the recording. We thought she would say, okay, market may be a little bad, but it's not bad at all. But she went inside and after 10 minutes said, can we go out now? She thought she would see horses that were maybe not treated well enough, and she saw a bunch of horses cramped in very tight space, treated violently with alcohol, and everything made her so stressed out that we couldn't imagine how horses are stressed out in such situations. That her company and her conclusions after having seen the market showed us that sometimes we're even not, maybe we have lost a bit of our sensitivity to the topic that when we don't see blood, we don't find all the violations we could find in this particular situation. So need of a fresh person with fresh attitude who could really take things as they are was really helpful. When we started digging into other things than just violations of animal welfare, we found that first of all, Polish authorities have no evidence, or better, no register of animals sold at markets. We've requested this information officially from chief veterinarian, and he replied, no, we don't have any register of the animals being brought to markets. So we had to make our own estimates, our own counts, based on what we know about the numbers of animals sold at markets. We've counted that it's about 2.5% of all cows being sold to slaughter in Poland that are sold at markets, which is 2.5% is like not a very significant number, but if you look at numbers of the animals, it's quite a big amount of suffering. This also makes, I'll get back to it for a minute. These numbers also makes the authorities come up with a conclusion, and they stated as an argument against the ban on markets that they have the animal trade under control because they supervise the markets. Well, we show them that this is just 2.5%. How can they supervise the whole trade when they supervise 2.5% and don't even do it right? So when they supervise 2.5%, they show the public that they have animal trade under control, which is obviously false. We've proved for over the years that markets have no real supervision. The veterinary service people who are at the markets are often not dedicated enough, to say the least. They are often just looking away from things they should be intervening. Also, what is the most disturbing in this situation is that they lack power to enforce the regulations, because even if they see a farmer abusing a horse, for example, at a particular situation during the loading, for example, all they can do is just approach him and say, don't do it. If he doesn't comply, they're gonna call the police. The police comes and says, okay, don't do it, and that's it. There's no real force that could make those farmers who abuse their animals at the given situation stop. And we've proved that even if they try to intervene, because there are those few who try to do something, they're helpless. They can't do anything because they have no real means to intervene. Also, another important thing is that we don't only investigate markets, because as a rescue team we also visit farms to intervene in cases of abuse of farm animals at farms. And animals come to markets from farms, from small farms as well, and the shape of the animals at farms is, it happens that it is really bad and requiring immediate intervention. And if we prove those multiple shortcomings at animal farms, the consequence is that they will occur at animal markets, because they are those same animals driven by those same people. I've put this question in this presentation because in the report I was talking about, we've raised also the food safety concerns, because the lack of supervision over the markets also reflects the lack of food safety. Should we care about food safety at all? Because we don't eat those animals. Those consumers who eat those animals should care for those issues themselves. But is that so? I had an interview in the radio after the publishing of the report, and I mentioned those food safety concerns, and the reporter asked me, okay, but aren't you raising those concerns because you want to find just more evidence, or are you just do you really care about those food safety concerns? Because I guess you don't eat animals, so should you care? I replied that of course we care as a non-governmental NGO. We care about every issues. We care about all the citizens, and that's like our duty. I don't have a good answer to this question. Just raising this concern maybe for future reference. What I initially answered is I think what we should do as being the conscience of the public, and somehow being responsible for bringing this up to the public. But again, you might argue that if we don't eat those animals, it would be even unfair to, if we oppose what is going on with them, we shouldn't be raising those issues. I don't have a good answer to this question. Maybe you'll find one. As I told you in the beginning, we brought the violations and our observations to the relevant authorities who run or supervise markets. That is a short article from 2013 when we intervened at this big Byzantine cattle market. I won't translate it whole, but just tell you what it says briefly. The mayor of Byzantine says that animal welfare organizations who fight for horses, who were not always treated well enough at our market, try to show us as horse murderers. They cruise our town with hidden cameras. Beware. And that was published in local press, and I think that reflects the whole attitude of authorities towards the problem. We had another situation earlier this year in February, I think. Our activist was filming violent loading of a cow at the very same market. He was approached, filming with covert camera, of course, and he was approached by a city council employee who was supervising the market. He was being asked, "Do you have a camera in there, or what? What are you doing? You can't film here." He, of course, said he was not filming, he was just visiting the market. He was there covertly, so just tried to avoid any conversations. And as he was exiting the market, a few minutes later, he was attacked by one of the farmers. His jacket was torn, and the farmer was obviously looking for a camera. We issued a press release to a local press and also to the nationwide press, posing a question: why is the city council looking for cameras and not looking for violations in animal trade? Relevant authorities replied that there might be always someone who abuses an animal at a market, but there'll always be such 1% of people. Everything they show is incidental. We tried to engage in some kind of a dialogue, as well as with the authorities, with supervisors, with farmers as well. But an image that appears is that we just have a very different approach, maybe due to our background, maybe due to our sensitivity, many issues. But still, I think, as that was addressed in many talks before during this conference, if we approach them with hate, we lose, I think. I think we should try to understand what they think, how they think, what they don't know, what they don't feel, and somehow try to... it's hard to educate, of course, but I think that education is always the key, especially if we start at the very beginning. But as many speakers before said, I think hate is not the way, and if you approach them with hate, you're gonna just expect the opposite. This cow was, it was an open investigation. Our team requested the assistance of official veterinarians because they expected the market was not complying to regulations. And they saw a cow that was tied up, lying between the trucks. And she was tied up in such a way that we expected that if we didn't see it in time, she was going to be dragged up the truck. When this was revealed, an official vet was already at the market, supervising the market. Somehow hasn't seen this cow, or he just didn't want to see this cow. When we pointed the veterinary service people into the direction of that cow, they ordered the farmers to lift her up. So they lifted her up with excessive force, loaded her onto a truck, and she was transported to a slaughterhouse, and we could do nothing about this because they said if she stands up, then she's fine for slaughter. We of course sued those farmers. That was 2017, and we don't have the results of the case yet. What is important here is this market takes place twice a week in a small town, and people of this town didn't know they have this market in their town. When this appeared on Facebook, there was big outrage of local people from the community, that some said that it's a manipulation, it's not taken in the town because they don't have a cattle market there. We've inspected that market since 2013. We've tried to meet with the mayor, with the supervising vet, to point out our observations, and they never found time for us. When this came out on Facebook, and there was a big outrage of people who either did not accept this as truth or did not accept this as happening, we got 2 calls. First from the mayor, second from the supervising vet. Can we meet? This shows us how important is the pressure that people can create. We couldn't have created this pressure even to initiate a meeting just by sending them official letters and requests for a meeting. People did that for us. I'll show you 2 more things. This photo was taken yesterday at a horse market. It translates into death to traitors. This is an example of how nationalist milieus are a bit not involved, but in the trade, but how the rhetorics of this milieu, of this way of thinking gets along with the problem of markets and exploitation of animals. Not judging anyone, of course. That was also taken yesterday at a horse market in Poland. It says it's forbidden to take photos, videos, and to share them. You seeing this photo means we broke the law. We didn't, because the law entitles us, first of all, to document violations, and second, if this happens at a public place, which is a public place, we are allowed to take whatever documentation we want and we need. And several minutes later, our team found a horse with a bleeding hoof. Was that what they were trying to hide? What I told you are just our impressions of our experiences, and probably I think we've profited from that conference, and having implemented, we will implement some of the things we've learned into our future campaigns, and probably into this campaign as well. I hope some of our experiences will also help you in your campaigns. If we can be of any help, or if we can engage in any cooperation, here's my email. You're welcome to use it. Thank you very much.